thanks everyone for coming to the secondary culture meet. We have these every term, as you know, so it's a chance for arts and cultural organisations to let all the secondary teachers in the city know what they've got coming up, how they can connect with you. So we hope that you'll be inspired and following this meeting, get in touch with all the partners that you hear from today. Challenge, as you know, is our local cultural education partnership for Nottingham. We're really lucky here in Nottingham to have support from Nottingham Trent University and the Arts Council to keep going. So I'm just going to see, can you see the presentation yet? Yeah. Okay. So let me just make sure that it's on the right view. So what we've got happening is essentially we do these events, we do these culture meets to really help you discover what's going on. So it's a quick blast of inspiration of what's happening around the city. We really want to support you to make connections and develop partnership projects and really feel like you're connected into what's going on in Nottingham, both as teachers experiencing things for yourselves and also in creating opportunities for your pupils and other teachers. We'd love to share the things that want to hear from schools about their experiences and their needs, so that when it comes to arts organisations designing programmes and coming up with ideas, we're doing that within a community of practice, so that essentially we're collaborating and making things happen together. Local cultural education partnerships are there are over 100 of them around the country, and they all aim to support children and young people to reach their creative potential and to provide access to cultural experiences wherever they are, whether that's in their communities, at school, wherever they spend their free time. So we have a really broad cultural education partnership that's working with schools and communities, youth groups, and in a whole range of areas to do with health and creative industries as well. So there's a whole range of people involved and lots that you can be doing to sort of contribute and make things happen. Today we're going to hear from all of these people, we hope. So Lakeside Arts, National Justice Museum, Nottingham Playhouse, Interfilm, Historic England, Positively Empowered Kids, and Nottingham Trent University, and Diversify if they're able to come. So we'll have 5-minute presentations, and I'd like to just kick off by letting you know about a few things that are happening in the coming months that you might have seen on social media or yourselves, or become aware of, that actually, although some of them will have specific things for schools to engage with, and others, I think it's just really important that you're aware of them so you can signpost your students and sixth formers and things to get involved in them. So just to kick off with Transform, lots of our arts partners are involved in this programme, and it's all looking to amplify leadership and creativity with global ethnic majority young people and creatives. So have a look at the brochure, it's just come out. You can pick them up from all over the city. New Art Exchange is kind of holding onto this and delivering this festival, and there's a whole range of amazing things going on, so please do connect into that if you can. We've also got Green Hustle coming back on the 1st of June. So it was the first festival in the Market Square last summer. And just again, for you to let your students know, especially those 16 plus that might like to volunteer to help make the street decor, there are going to be sessions in the evenings on Wednesdays and Thursdays throughout May. And you might know some students that you think they'd love to get involved in something like this. It's a really brilliant community feel, and something that really celebrates, our connections to nature, the importance of understanding all the things that we need to do to work together to live in a better, greener society. So it's a brilliant thing to be part of if you can. Look out for Nottingham Poetry Festival too. So the Poetry Festival is happening again. It's 10 days of workshops and panel discussions and events. So keep an eye out for it and share it with pupils and parents. And lastly, Connecting Knots is our youth cultural partnership. We have a monthly group of 16 to 25-year-olds that represent our arts organisations, youth boards and other youth and community organisations. And they get together really to organise things for other young people. So we'd love it if we could get some sixth form representatives from various schools along to that group. And we've been wondering how best to encourage you to do that, and whether actually we could run a couple of pilots in just a couple of sixth forms where the students don't necessarily have to come to our monthly meetups, but they are given a bit of budget to make things happen within their own settings. And it's almost like they're an offshoot ambassador group to Connecting Knots. So if that's something that you're interested in exploring with us and helping make happen, we'd love to talk to you about it. So get in touch. And I wanted to just mention this because it's something that you might have seen already, but the Runnymede Trust and Freedoms Foundation have recently published something called Visualise, which was a big survey with art teachers about secondary education, art education, and some of the findings are pretty stark around the need to diversify the art curriculum and support teachers with how they go about doing that. And it's something that I'm wondering whether we need to have a significant and special event to support teachers to think about these things. So at the end of the session, we're going to have a poll asking you to prioritise where you'd like our co-commissioning budget to be spent. And this is something that I think we could explore together and make some headway on the recommendations within this report. So I'll send it out to everybody following the meeting if you've not had a chance to have a look. So yeah, just a few of the dates for your diary that are coming up. Nottingham Contemporary couldn't be here today, but I wanted to just plug that they've got their regular like CPD session where they invite teachers to come along and preview the exhibitions that they have coming up. That's on the 6th of June from 4:30 to 6:30. You get to try out their resources and have a look around and think about how you're going to do self-led visits and other things within the galleries. So pop that in your diary if you're able to come. And Lakeside have got an opening for their new exhibition on the 2nd of May. Again, it's just an open invite. You can go down there. There's no need to book for that one, but you do need to book for the contemporary one. So they'd like to know if you're able to join them. And these are just my mine and Ash's contacts. So that if you hear anything and you want to follow up on anything today, just get in touch with us. So I hope that wasn't too quick a whirlwind. I'm going to come over first. Let's see if she's been in the room. My plan was to come to Rachel first, but I don't think she's here yet. So if it's all right, I'd like to ask Susan from the National Justice Museum to just run through the things that you've got going on and the ways in which the schools can engage with the National Justice Museum. Over to you, Susan.
Hey, hello everybody. So I'm Susan, I'm the Learning Officer at the National Justice Museum, and we're here, well, I'm here today to kind of share with some of our lesser known workshops that we run for key stages 3, 4 and 5. So a lot of you guys may be more familiar with our judge and jury type trials. So we get school groups coming in, they can do a day where it's half a day in our courtroom, half a day around our museum. And we do traditionally a sort of judge and jury type trial where we're looking at subjects such as knife crime, cyberbullying, hate crime, drugs, murder, or suffragettes and protest are our historical ones. And the students play the roles of the judge, clerk, usher, jury team, prosecution, barristers and solicitors, defence barristers and solicitors. And they run the court session and the jury decide the outcome, and then the judge sentences and it goes through as normal. And then the other half of the day is in the museum. We've got various workshops for those, which I'll come on to later. But the thing that we are trying to push for the older age groups is actually our appeals cases. So a lot of people are familiar with the justice system in your standard courtrooms, but we're looking at how as you move up, if you have a sentence that you disagree with, or your outcome that you just like, well, no, I'm not actually guilty, or things haven't gone quite right, about how the next stage works. So for our appeals cases, we look at freedom of religion, gang violence under the joint enterprise, and diminished responsibility. And in these cases, you're reviewing whether the sentencing has been accurately carried out. So you have slightly different roles. You've got 3 students make up the roles of the judges, and they are going to decide whether the sentence should be upheld or should be changed. And then the rest of the group are split into the appellants and the respondents. So half will argue that there is something wrong with the sentence that's been given, and the other half are going to argue that it's exactly as it should be. And they look at the evidence that's been brought through the case and review whether the legal tests have been met. So it's a much more in-depth style of trial. The things that the students are looking at, the details of the law, are kind of looked at a little bit in more depth than in our normal cases. And from that, they then have a structured debate. So it's a very formal setting, using formal language, referring to each other as your my honourable friends, and all that kind of court setting. And then again, it's up to the students, the 3 people who are being the judges, to decide how the outcome goes. And we're really trying to kind of do these if they expand the knowledge of how our justice system works up to the higher levels of the courts, but also it does just give the students that ability to get their teeth into it a little bit more. So they're sort of our appeals cases, which really wanting to think more. Key stage 4 is our sort of target area, but they can run perfectly well as key stage 3 and key stage 5. So the other things that we run with our museum workshops, the other half of the day, we have our capital punishment debate, which is looking at whether capital punishment should be returned. And we're in the process of reviewing that to spend more time in our capital punishment gallery, and getting students to look a bit more in depth about the practicalities of execution and about the people who have been incorrectly executed, and the miscarriage of justice, and talking about whether capital punishment should be brought back or not. And we currently run that as a debate, so you can have a debate over the ethic, and we look at the ethics of it, and if it was going to be reintroduced, how. And there's loads of facts and information to back that up in case studies. But for, like I said, we're trying to redevelop that one. So there might be pilot sessions coming up for that in the not too distant future. And we also have our Justice Reinvented, where students get to design their own justice system, looking at how it should be based on rehabilitation or punishment. How are you going to fund it? What are the conditions that look like that you're going to keep your criminals in? And we've got case study examples to go with that. So again, it's just a slightly different take on looking at the justice system and allowing students the opportunity to say how they would do it better. And the other one, which I quite personally like, is our Suffragettes Deeds Not Words workshop, where the workshop's a debate, or a parliamentary style debate, on whether women should get the right to vote, based in the early 1920s, I think. No. This debate's in the early 1900s, and we have our actors in. So the debate is the workshop's either started by one of our actors coming in playing Lord Curzon and giving his speech about why women shouldn't get the vote, or one of our actors coming in being a local suffragette and explaining why she thinks women should get the vote. And our lead interpreter, Stephen, is very proud of the fact that as Lord Curzon, he managed to get the entire girls' school to vote that women should not be given the vote after his debate. So we have quite a lot of information in there as well to go through and really sort of dig down into the details behind it. So there are things for you guys looking at our museum site, but our sister site is the City of Caves. And this is where I've been getting quite excited because I've been developing a Key Stage 3 geography/history workshop to go with a tour of the caves. So this is now at the point of pilot, and we will be looking for schools to come in and pilot this session. And in this session, you start by looking at the current OS maps of Nottingham and trying to identify the physical and human geography features. So you're looking for the railway lines, the football stadiums, the shopping areas, the housing areas. But there's also a geology map. So you're looking at the bedrock of Nottingham and then trying to understand how the geology of Nottingham has influenced where people have been building and where the railway lines run and that type of thing. And then once you've looked at that, we then go back in time. So we go back through historic OS maps and non-OS maps and try and trace which parts of Nottingham developed when, which are the oldest parts of Nottingham, which are the newer parts of Nottingham, and thinking about how, again, the geography and the geology of the area impacted the way that Nottingham developed, but going from modern backwards. So that I hope covers a bit of both geography and history, because I know cross-curricular workshops are helpful. Get more value for money if you can tick off 2 subjects rather than 1. And they said they would be run. It's sort of an hour-long workshop, and then the other hour from a 2-hour session would be a tour of the City of Caves with a tour guide, one of our interpreters, where you find about the history of the caves, how people use them, the fact that every one of the nearly 900 caves under Nottingham have been dug by people, and a little bit about sandstone, and then the ways in which those caves have been used by the people of Nottingham throughout the past. And I think that's me in a nutshell of what we have to offer for you guys.
Is there anything about the choices and consequences workshop, Susan, that you'd like to mention? Because that's a free offer, is it not? With some travel contributions. So yes, we like the word free.
Free, fantastic. Well, that is the other thing with our pilot studies. If for the pilot for the caves, that will be free pilot studies. So you can come for a free session there. But yes, choices and consequences. That is our knife crime side of things. So it's designed in partnership with the Ben Kinsella Trust. So Ben was the brother of Brooke Kinsella, who at the time of his death was an actress in EastEnders. And he died as a victim of knife crime from a night out in London. And out of that came the BKT Trust, Ben Kinsella Trust, and the development of this Choices and Consequences workshop. So this is only ever offered on its own. You can't come and do this and combine it with a court session or a museum workshop. It is simply coming on its own, but it's looking at trying to prevent young people picking up a knife and becoming a statistic of knife crime. So as part of that exhibition, you look about the choices that you make. What choices lead to someone picking up a knife? What choices lead to a situation where that knife is used on you? We look at joint enterprise again. So simply being in the area and not stopping an attack. If you're recording it, then you are equally culpable. The law says that if you are recording the attack, you are encouraging the attack, and therefore you are part of that. So we talk through the law about carrying about knives and things. We look at Ben's life. We look at the effect his death has had on his friends and family. And we look about how you can make different choices.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. Right. So brilliant. Thanks, Susan. Next, can I come over to Sarah from Nottingham Playhouse?
Hi, everybody. So I'll start with Punch because I think that's one that people are quite interested in. So I'll show Punch, which is about a young man from the Meadows who, during a night out when he was 19, threw a single punch at a stranger and killed him. And a story of what happened after that. He went to jail, and then there was a restorative justice program that the parents of the victim and the guy Jacob, who the play is about, are on together, and how that plays out. It's a really important piece of work, and I know lots of schools have been quite interested in that show. So if you're looking at booking as a school group, then you need to go via box office to get school group prices. There are some matinee performances available on some Thursdays. We are offering wraparound student workshops and teacher CPD, and schools can inquire via the website. I'll put the website page in the chat. And we also have something called the Talking Circle, which is a piece of art that's been created for our forecourt, and it's we have got some talking circles with Jacob, and actually with some other groups. I think he's collaborating with some other groups happening that people can take part in. Like, also the talking circle structure itself will be available for people to use, like if they come before or after a show and there's nothing happening that we've booked officially on there. There's also a few post-show question and answer sessions to book onto if people are interested. Also the talking circle structure itself, once Punch has finished the run, then we are hiring that out to anyone that thinks they might want to borrow it for a while. That's Punch. Any more details, just look on the website, and my colleague Natalia Bruce will be able to follow up on anything you have questions about. Then we also have some in-house opportunities at Nottingham Playhouse. So we have quite a lot of availability on our second senior young company group at the moment, which is for years 10 to 13, and that's on a Monday after school for anyone interested in drama. And there's, even though it's a paid for course, there are quite a few bursary places available. So do point any keen students in that direction. We also have a youth art club on a Saturday now for 11 to 16-year-olds. And both that and senior young company can always be used for their Duke of Edinburgh award if they need an activity for that. We have summer school coming up this year. It's going to be Matilda, Junior the musical. That is happening the week commencing the 19th of August. There'll also be an acting for screen intensive for teenagers the week commencing the 12th of August. That's actually a 3-day intensive. And then lastly, we have I'm going to start that sentence again. We have Connections available. Connections is a festival that we run in conjunction with the National Theatre every year, and the National Theatre have just opened applications for the school year 2024 to 25, and we run a festival here as part of the Connections programme, because Connections is for any company of young people between the ages of 13 and 19. So lots of school groups get involved, but it can be a voluntary organisation or a youth theatre. And it doesn't matter how much experience you've got of putting on a play, but the idea is that you choose one of the specially commissioned plays for young people that the National Theatre facilitate, and your company have various support from the National Theatre in a weekend intensive and just on the end of the phone. And then each company gets a partner theatre, so anybody in Nottingham or Nottinghamshire would get Nottingham Playhouse, and we come out and do workshops and see your work in progress. And then you come to the Nottingham Playhouse during our festival week and perform here as a professional company alongside other companies, where you get to make connections with other people. There's Q&As with professional industry artists, yeah, just the whole experience of what it's like to be either a technical or an actor within a company. So that's really exciting. You can get in touch with me. I'll put my email in the chat, but equally the National Theatre has a link as well that you can apply to them directly, and the bursaries are available for that too. And it's a really exciting experience, so I recommend it. Thank you.
Amazing. Thanks, Sarah. That's great.
Sorry, I was like on a roller coaster because I
You
was like,
were.
must get it in 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, it's fine. This yeah, it's amazing to hear all the things that are going on, and I'm sure it's really. I hope you get some schools coming along to Punch, and I think the talking circle element of that is going to be really important. So yeah, it's really interesting. Thank you. Loads happening. I'm going to come over to Deb now. Sorry, Deb from NTU. Would you like to share how schools can connect with Sensei?
Yeah, sure. So hello, everybody. My name's Deborah. I work at Nottingham Trent University. So some of you may be aware, or you may not be, but we've got a widening access and outreach team at NTU that work specifically with local and primary schools to help close the attainment gap and ultimately help pupils to make informed decisions about higher education. A lot of our work is targeted where progression to HE is traditionally quite low. So we deliver sessions in school and also on campus. One of the activities that we are going to do next week, I'm just going to post it in the chat, is exploring university together. Now this is for year 10 pupils and their families to come onto the campus. It's at 5:30 till 8 o'clock, and that is to find out a bit more about higher education, what it's like to be a student, and how the student finance works. So this is a collaborative event with the University of Nottingham. They had it at their campus last week. It went really well. I think we had about 130 guests during that Saturday morning. So it's a really positive experience for the families that come along. Other programs that we run, we've got a program called Raising Attainment with Resilience, and this is aimed at supporting year 10 pupils that are free school meals as they progress towards their year 10 marks. They will be looking for new schools to join that program in September onwards. And we also offer a secondary achievement coaches program, which employs students from the University of Nottingham and NTU to provide literacy support for year 7 pupils. So again, that will be open to schools from September onwards. That's everything we offer is free, and it will support schools to achieve their Gatsby benchmarks. Lastly, so we're looking at developing our offer and expanding it to reach more schools. This is going to include offering a suite of assemblies to all schools, followed by targeted workshops for free school meals. So we're looking to pretty drastically increase the reach that we have and the number of free school meal pupils we are working with. So if you aren't currently working with us, then please do get in touch. I'm particularly interested in developing new contacts within the Multi-Academy Trust so we can have a bit more of a trust-wide approach to implementing our outreach. And we're also looking at developing oracy provision at both primary and secondary level. So if this does sound of interest to you and you want to get in touch, then you can do. I will just pop my email address in the chat. And I think Cathy's going to circulate the notes with all the links as well after this. So thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thanks, Deb. I'm conscious that Martha's got to go in a sec and possibly Joseph's already gone. So I'm going to launch a quick poll before we come to John, just to see whether, before too many people have to leave, which essentially is a poll that just goes as a quick thing to try and see where you feel the priority should be. We've got a bit of funding and I want it to be a co-commissioning CPD pot. So we've got the opportunity to develop some resources for schools to enhance self-led visits into Nottingham. So this is something such as, you bring in a group of students into the city for something at the Playhouse, but while you're here, we could make sure that teachers and kids have got kind of workshop booklets or things to, when you're walking through the market square, stuff to stop and look at with that really handy information that teachers might need to kind of inspire young people about the people or the history or the place, a bit of heritage. CPD events, themed twilight sessions for schools, so groups of schools where we might come up with things that are kind of that 4 till 6 CPD events. Do you want to have a marketplace, an in-person marketplace where you get to meet a range of arts partners and we all come together for an event? Is that a good use of money? That should say artist-led, not ArtCed. Artist-led masterclasses, potentially for teachers and students. Maybe we should use that pot as something that schools can dip into and say, well, actually, we really would love an artist to come into school and run a workshop. Teaching for creativity across the curriculum, sharing ideas and experiences of the creativity collaboratives work that we've been doing in Nottingham, which is very much about developing creative capacities and approaches. And then the last one being diversifying arts education curriculum, so acting on the visualise findings that I mentioned earlier. So just pick one, don't think too much about it. Just see. Would just be interesting to see what you think, what your initial kind of go-to would be in terms of the priorities there. And we should hopefully, if you submit your answer, it should come up with a time for to see what the results are. So has everyone had a go? Got 7 responses so far. Okay, so the 2 top ones so far, we've got 7 responses. So is there an 8th person that's not yet done it yet? Oh, diversifying the arts curriculum is coming out top at 50%. That's great. That's really interesting. So we will definitely develop that. I thank you so much. That's really good to see and really good to know that that's where you feel that we should be developing that. Oh, we've got a 9th response. Excellent. Thanks so much. That's great. Right, I'll let that be done. And I'm going to come over now. Thank you, everybody that's shared what you've got going on and all the things that are happening. Are there any questions for anybody that's spoken already before we move on? No? Great. So can I come over to Catriona and then John? Catriona, would you like to tell us about what's happening and what's available from your point of view?
Yeah, sure. So I'm just going to briefly chat about the Urban Nature Project. So I'm Catriona, I'm the Programmes Officer at Ignite. We're an education charity based in Nottingham, but we're working with Nottingham City museums to promote this really great free opportunity for schools to get involved in the Urban Nature Project, which is led by the Natural History Museum in London and being delivered in museums across the country, which includes Nottingham Castle, Newstead Abbey and Willerton Hall. So it's a free opportunity for schools to get involved in the Urban Nature Project, and it's totally up to you what kind of site you want to go to. You can choose the Castle, Willerton Hall or Newstead Abbey. It can be based on where the school's located, what type of thing you're interested in, or even just for an opportunity for the students to visit a new place as well. So the Urban Nature Project's been designed for children and young people aged 9 to 14. So it's really suitable for years 7 to 9. And it's been kind of set up to connect children in areas with low connectedness. I said this better today than yesterday. Low connectedness to nature through hands-on activity and the opportunity to learn about nature and urban ecology. So the offer that Nottingham City Museums has, it's really flexible. It can be adapted to your school setting, the amount of time that you need if you're able to get out of school or not. As I mentioned, there's 3 potential sites that you can visit, but you can just chat to the team on the Urban Nature Project and, develop something with them together. Kind of generally, there's 3 options. So you can go to one of the 3 sites. You can undertake activities. There's eco field work, water investigations, tree trails. There's a mini beast hunt. So lots of different kind of hands-on practical things to do on those sites. You can also borrow some equipment after that session, bring it back to school and do some project work with your students on the school grounds. Some of that equipment includes things like trail cameras, there's bat detectors and moth traps, so really interesting things that you can do back at school. The second option is the Urban Nature Project could run as a 6-week short course if you want to do it with a smaller group of students. For example, if you've got like an eco club, STEM club, like a nurture group, so it doesn't have to be a full class load, it can be adapted to be like a small short course. Again, you'd have access to the equipment as well to carry out field activities in school grounds. And then the third option is if you can't get to one of the sites, the Urban Nature Project can come to you and would deliver those hands-on activities at your school. So you'd be basically doing the urban nature in the immediate area of the school. Again, they will leave some equipment that you can borrow to carry out your own activities and kind of field work. The program itself also offers CPD sessions for all school staff to learn a little bit more about environmental fieldwork, and the cost of Crest Awards for the students who've been involved is covered as well. So it is totally free. There's no charge for any aspect of the project, and there's also funding available for contributions towards transport costs. So that's for schools in areas of multiple deprivation, if you're a special school, if you're school in a levelling up area. So the reason that I'm promoting, and I've said free like 5 times, is because the project ends at the end of this academic year. So the Urban Nature Project's only available until the end of July. The teams at Nottingham City Museums are currently taking bookings for between Mondays and Wednesdays from between now and the end of term. So yeah, just get in touch with them if it's something you're interested in. They'll devise something that's suitable and adaptable for your school, and get you booked in then as well. I've got contact information, some links to the website, so I'll drop them all in the chat for you as well. And I've added my Ignite contact details in the chat at the start as well, so 2 separate lots in there.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Catriona, that's brilliant. Right, I think the last person that we're going to hear from is John. And we're a smaller group, a few people have had to leave. So I wondered, John, because we've got a chance now to have a bit of a discussion about how this project might develop. So I wonder if it would be helpful to just hear from Mark and Beth about their role and their schools and their settings, so that you get a sense of which schools they represent, which trusts they're part of. Is that okay? Yeah. So can I come over to Beth? Beth, where are you representing? Where are you from?
Hi. Well, Mark and I are kind of connected. So we're the same trust.
So, but you're getting special attention then for the rest of the session.
We're both at the Raleigh Education Trust, but I also I'm the art lead and various other bits and bobs at Westbury Academy, which is the SAMH special school in our trust. We're 7 to 16, so cover quite a spread. And in terms of sort of things that we're doing, we try to sort of get involved in as much as possible. So this is always really useful for sort of picking up on things that we might not have heard of before, and things that we're part of. And particularly at the moment, I've got I'm organising, Mark's actually on my sort of group of people we're yet to meet to start organising our Festival of Learning, which is the first week of July. So sort of various activities and opportunities that we can fit into that, like what we just heard about, might be something that would fit into that. Yeah, so I don't know what else you want to know.
Brilliant. No, that's great. Mark, do you want to say hi?
Yeah, hello everybody, those that are left here. So yeah, I'm assistant principal at Deanwood Academy with responsibilities for personal development and careers, amongst everything else that you get through gets thrown at you, as we all know that work in education. So our we're like a pupil referral unit. So when young people are being permanently excluded from education, they're coming to our Unity model, and quite a lot will end up with us. We're an assessment placement, normally stay with us for about 30 weeks, and then we'll kind of work out, after working with them and various interventions and support, where they're going to end up next, whether it's going to be AP or back into mainstream. We work with Key Stage 2 and Key Stage 3 only here on site.
Brilliant, that's really good to know. So, John, would you like to introduce yourself and say a few words about your potential project? Oh, if you just come off mute.
First error. Yes, sure. Thanks for inviting me along. Yeah, so we, along with a colleague, we bid for a small amount of money to do a project which seeks to engage with teachers. I'll say a little bit more about the project. But Challenge has kindly agreed to be our partner in that that we've named in that bid. So just a bit about where I'm in the my colleague Rhiannon Harris. We're both in the Department of Modern Languages and Cultures here at Nottingham University, and we're both in the French section. So the background to our project is the sort of research and teaching. There are lots of French films about schools and about education. Obviously, there aren't just French films set in schools. We're interested in in English language, in all sorts of films set in schools, but particularly French school films set in French films set in schools. Are something we've taught, and we're currently doing a sort of research project on that. We're writing about those films, and we just felt that research really kind of is it's useful, potentially, we feel, to put that research in contact with the world outside the university, particularly teachers, because, you know, we're teachers ourselves in universities, and we're aware one of the things these films deal with is the complexity of that thing that is teaching. And, you know, one of the many things these films deal with is the way in which a school always reflects and interacts in multiple ways with the society around it. And one of the particular things we're interested in, and I'm, you know, personally, just outside of my work, I'm interested in, I just see it in my life all the time, is the way in which ideas about teaching, about education, particularly about teachers, sort of circulate in society. And sometimes I feel, as a teacher myself, they're problematic, these ideas that circulate. And the sort of one central one that we've alighted on, that is kind of dealt with in these films in interesting ways, is this kind of figure of the teacher as a hero. You know, that the teacher has to be a hero. And we're just really interested in that, what that means, how teachers feel about the representations of teachers and teaching in films. And I'm just going to send you this is not a French film, but just if anybody's interested, I thought a really, really good film, a really interesting film on this subject, which I'm sure people will react to in lots of different ways. It's showing at the Broadway at the moment, and it's called The Teacher's Lounge. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a German film. It's really, really, really interesting on teaching, being a teacher, and particularly on how, you know, the school is kind of a reflection and an interaction with the world outside, the society outside of that school. So that's what we want to do. And I should really emphasize, we're not claiming to have the idea of this project, the idea of the engagement with teachers is for teachers, and, you know, partly, hopefully, to enhance teachers' well-being. It's not about us imparting some expertise. What we're saying is, we've got some interesting stuff that we think might lead to some interesting discussion. So if we get the money, fingers crossed, as I say, with the kind support of Challenge as our partner, we'd be looking to do, it's very simple, just 3 events at the Broadway cinema. Actually, it sounds like I'm sponsored by the Broadway, which I'm not. And they would be just 3 events. We were thinking of late July, September and October, but, you know, that it wouldn't have to be that, but we thought that might hopefully fit in with kind of school vacation timetables and that, the school year timetable, and it would basically be film screenings, Freudian slip, film screenings and discussions coming out of those films. As I say, we're really, we're really interested and really excited to engage with teachers, and as I say, a lot of that comes out of the fact that we are teachers ourselves, and we experience the frustration, the joys of teaching, but also, the frustration of teaching and that interest that we both have in what is this thing called teaching, what is learning. It's a really interesting, and how does that fit into a society? I just find that an endlessly fascinating question. So yeah,
so I wonder, John, whether for the other teachers that are in the space at the moment, if we could get a little bit of reaction or a bit of feedback on whether that's something that you'd be happy to, whether you think within your trust, like the Raleigh Trust, whether you think something like that kind of offer, coming along to Broadway, watching some films, having some discussion. It's a bit of a social, in a way, for teachers. It's not a big academic thing. It's an opportunity to come together. So I just wonder what your reaction might be.
It's certainly something that that I can promote from my sort of trust role, and look at stuff, and maybe even in sort of, we're sort of getting to the point where we'll be launching our Trust Central offer of professional development, and it may be that there's either some people on particular elements of that would be more interested in it, or sort of generally. But I think in terms of the sort of idea of thinking about the perception of teachers and teaching in society is actually quite sort of pertinent at the moment, with a lot of conversations, a lot of sort of media sort of rhetoric around teaching, perception of how schools and teaching has changed post sort of lockdown and sort of homeschooling kind of thing, and that sort of idea, and this sort of, I think there's always a sort of ongoing sort of overarching idea that because people have been to school, they know what teaching is, and and that sort of thread of stuff, people have always got an opinion on schools and always got an opinion on teaching, and even, I suppose, Mark, working at the Pru, there's a lot of stuff at the moment around exclusions and suspensions, and this sort of rhetoric of the sort of school to prison pipeline, and all of that really sort of heated conversation that happens around schools without people necessarily knowing what happens in schools. So yeah, it is really interesting.
Just to add to that, I think I think it's a great concept. I'm really interested, obviously, being a Pru, and Westbury, I suppose, for want of a better description, a SAMH school. We've got a special school in Woodlands. And I think they're different beasts to mainstream schools, very, very different. So it'd be interesting to find out what the thoughts would be from our parents in particular, and our students on us here, and what it was like for mainstream. Because I think that would be I think a really interesting piece of work. I know that's probably not where you're heading to, but I just feel we're different, very different settings. Massively different. I've not got a teaching background, so I've come from a different sector. I've come from the charitable sector, to bring something different to this organisation. And there's lots of bodies in our building at the moment that have not come from a teaching background, have come through on unqualified teacher status, coming through TA through supply, and that's their journey. So it's very different beast in Prus. I think some mainstream schools, they go into wanting to be a teacher, and they go, and away they go. In Pru, especially in this environment, and I can't necessarily speak for Beth and hers, but it's certainly a totally different beast that we have here.
Yeah, it is.
And I'm
think
interested to know how this might also, John, like feed into other activities around teacher wellbeing, because it's kind of I don't know how you manage to do that within Rally Trust, but we're conscious of teacher retention being a huge issue. So having the opportunity to just let it spill out or have a safe space to talk, I think that's what we're wanting this to be. If we're able to get the funding and help these events happen. That's right, isn't it, John?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I guess another strand of things that I've researched on that feeds into this is I've done sort of research, as it were, on work and workplaces. And again, I would say this not just from what I've researched, but from my own experience, is that it's not that workplaces, workplaces come in all different shapes and sizes, and some are dysfunctional and some are functional. But even when a workplace is functional, people often don't have the space, the headspace, the workspace, whatever, to step back and talk about what they're doing. And I guess, I mean, it's deep in my personality. I think you always need, for my sort of sanity, I always need to reflect on what I'm doing to be able to take distance on it and sort of rationalize it. Otherwise, I tend to feel swamped by what, and one of the things I feel swamped by is the expectations that are set of me as a teacher, which I sometimes find unrealistic or problematic or contradictory. And I always think, having that space to just reflect on those things. You're not necessarily going to find immediate solutions to them, but to be able to, that idea of a sort of safe space, I find really, really useful personally. And because I think, my feeling would be, it's a fundamental teaching, education is a fundamental human activity. And as you say, Beth, everybody thinks they know, understandably, because they all think they know, because everybody's been to school in some form. People think they know what education is about, what teaching is about, what makes a good teacher. And often there's a sort of received wisdom out there, isn't it, that I think sometimes needs challenging.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, John. It's really interesting.
Yes, I hope it'd be really good if we can get the money, and it would be really, really interesting to see what comes out of it. But I've been a bit of a pain with all my colleagues this week. I'm recommending everybody the Teachers Lounge, if you can see it. It's quite tense, but it's well worth watching.
Okay, brilliant. And along that vein, just quickly, in terms of other things you can hook into, I'd love people to remember that, as well as our teacher e-newsletters that we do on a bi-monthly basis, where you get loads of information come through about upcoming opportunities, we also have a parent and carers e-newsletter that you can share, or put a link, one-click link from your website to the parent carers e-newsletter each time, because then your parents will get to hear what they, low cost and affordable activities there are out there. And we've started a new relationship with the Theatre Royal and Concert Hall, and we've got free tickets at the moment. There's an offer for free tickets to the Romeo and Juliet ballet at the Theatre Royal if you're a subscriber to the newsletter. So they come and go, these kind of opportunities, but subscribe to the parent and carers e-newsletter and share it with your pupils and families and parents, because I think that's a really good thing that we've started to develop some of these relationships. And I would love to be able to say I can give free tickets to teachers as part of teacher wellbeing programme, but I'm not quite sure if I'm allowed to, what the legalities around teacher perks is, but we could investigate. So I'm really grateful for everybody for coming today. Sarah might be able to tell us more about complimentary tickets for teachers from the Playhouse for special events and things that are part of partnership programmes, but we can definitely look into coming together on a more sociable sort of environment to get to know each other and build relationships, because quite often it's those relationships that help make things happen. and getting to know each other like in another dimension would be really, really good. And seeing us all face to face one day would be great as well. The culture meets carry on. We've got dates in the diary now and on the Eventbrite, so you can find them on their website for the whole of the next of the academic year. And we've got our wall planner in development. So the last 3 years we've produced a wall planner that's been useful. Old school A1 wall planner for your staff rooms and offices, and that's currently in development. So partly the reason for me to ask that question about our co-commissioning CPD pot was in order for us to plan in some events for the wall planner for the next academic year. So if you're able to, Beth, if you want to get in touch about your central CPD, like professional development plans and anything that you think might also be useful for others in Nottingham that could go on that would be great. So yeah, I really appreciate you coming along. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and sharing opportunities, and I'll let you go and enjoy your evening, but take care.
Yeah, guys,
Thank
Thank you very
you.
much. Nice to meet
Bye,
everybody.
bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.